So I've been doing this experiment for the past couple of months, roughly 18 months. Nothing heavy, nothing crazy, but just trying to see if it works. And the past 18 months, I feel like I've had some really, really good results in many different areas of my life, whether that's related to my relationship or money or my career or business or whatever it may be. And that experiment has been based on not telling everyone all of my plans. Really, really, really interesting. And I'm not saying this to say that, I'm trying to do this thing where, I'm going to get to the top secretly and, nobody needs to know. No, it's none of that stuff. This is more related to effectiveness and what I've realized in terms of when I've usually told people my plan, so to speak, and how that's affected my sort of results. I mean, there's this whole idea of moving in silence. I don't really know where that comes from. I get the mentality. I've adopted the mentality before, but it's not just about moving in silence. It's about, again, effectiveness. I mean, I'll caveat this by saying that if there are appropriate people you need to tell, if there are significant people you need to tell, then of course tell them. And when I'm talking about appropriate people, this could be specialists. This could be people who want you to grow in this specific, field. This could be experts. This could be other people who are doing similar things so you can grow together. Significant people could be classed as your partner, your sibling, your mom, whatever it may be, provided that they have the right level of objectiveness and sort of, I would say, coach style, mentor style approach towards your discussions in relation to what you're doing. And so what I really want to do is talk about my experience. Now, let's be clear. People are not stupid. People are not dumb, okay? They know that results are going to be oriented towards, health, wealth, relationships, or somewhere within the wheel of life, such as romance or career or spiritualism, whatever it may be. It's going to be something in a nature, especially if they know your qualities as it stands. However, they don't need to know the detail. I know when people have asked me stuff before and I've told people openly, because there's been this whole idea of if you publicly tell people, then there is more, accountability, more pressure to perform. Not everyone works like that, my friend. Not everybody works like that. So you have to do what works for you. Even if what I'm saying doesn't work for you, ignore the advice and move on. But from what I've seen, when people are asking me consistently, number one, I either feel like I've achieved that thing already because they're like, oh, well done, blah, 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 this and that. Or two, there's a situation where I feel like there's so much pressure from everyone asking me that I falter. I fall under pressure. Whether I do that consciously or subconsciously, who knows? I haven't analyzed it to that point. But there is a change to that. And I remembered this thinking really was ingrained with me when I was speaking to my friend Mike. This was a couple of weeks ago. And he was like, bro, look, it's important that you don't tell everyone your plans, including me. I may have the best intentions for you. However, you don't know how energetically that affects you. And that may feel a bit, woo or whatever it may be. But whether we're talking about energetics or whether we're talking about how it affects my psyche, okay, if we're practicalizing it, then there is an effect nonetheless, okay? And so he raises a good point. And so what I'm going to do is talk about some points that I saw via a Trello article that talks about this stuff really, really well. So with this first example, there's this person known as Goldwitzer back in 2009 who did this study that basically showed that individuals who were clear about their original intentions in terms of what they wanted to be or who they wanted to be versus those who didn't really say that spent less time delivering a quality piece of work relative to those who are anonymous. What does this mean? If you have a goal that is associated to some sort of identity, such as becoming something, such as a writer, a runner, a doctor, a lawyer, an entrepreneur, whatever it may be, and you tell people about that openly, you may get this feeling of I've already achieved it. You may get this sense of, oh, I'm there already. Now, in some ways, that's a good thing because there's this whole sort of idea of, well, the mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what's not. Athletes talk about this all the time. There's been psychological studies, etc., etc. But it may mean that you relax in the process, depending on how you're made up as a person. And so if you've got a goal that is identity related, don't tell people what your plans are in relation to that, okay? Or don't tell people that's what you're trying to become, at least. It's not necessarily about the plans. It's more about the becoming, okay? And so identity-based goals can make you lazier. So that's the first thing. In another example, they talk about the Reed College study where they had different individuals that were praised for being the person that they was, for doing some greatness in whatever they did. And they praised another group for the process or methodology that they took. And they realized that those people who were praised for being a specific person, for having certain talents or qualities, ended up being less motivated to deliver on pieces of work, as opposed to those who were praised for the process or methodology that they used. Now, that's an interesting case. In this instance, it's understanding that if you want to get some sort of feedback, ask people, tell people to give you feedback based on your delivery, based on your process. Because again, you may take things for granted. If you have this whole idea of, oh, I've got it in the bag, I'm talented, oh, this person says this, this and that, you get these affirmations or this positive feedback loop that doesn't necessarily get positive results, so to speak. And so it's about focusing on how you can orient and iterate in order for you to improve based on the process that you're delivering. Very, very important stuff. Which moves me on to the next point. There was another study done by a guy called Ayala Fishback, guy or girl, back in 2011. And effectively it highlighted and showed that there are different types of feedback or sort of proclamation that you should give if you're a beginner versus an expert. So what does this mean? If you're a beginner, if you're telling people your plans, you may get shot down by different types of people. And so the best sort of like feedback you can get in terms of response, in terms of your plans, is positive feedback. And that positive feedback is usually related to committing to that thing, as opposed to what you're doing, how you're doing it, etc., etc. Now, if you're a bit more advanced, if you're a bit more of an expert, then it's more about being critical by nature and really interrogating and understanding, how can I improve? Just give it to me straight and raw. So as a beginner, you don't want to be hearing stuff from people saying, oh, you're going to do that. Are you sure about that? So it was understood that positive feedback was great. Critical feedback was better for those who are expert or advanced, and not great necessarily for those who are beginners, because it may put them in a position where they feel like they're not worthy enough. But feedback above no feedback or negative feedback was best. So some sort of feedback is good. However, there is a distinction between beginner and advanced when it comes to that sort of feedback, especially when it comes to telling people your goals. So what am I saying here? When you're telling people your goals, understand your status and your level. Are you a beginner or are you advanced? And if you can't shut your mouth for whatever reason, then be clear about who you're telling, because that's very important. If you're just going to tell anybody, if you're going to tell someone who's critical by nature, it may not be the best thing that you need to hear, and it may stop you from actually achieving your goal. It really links back to what I was saying before in terms of how I felt like psychologically or energetically, I didn't feel like I could do those things anymore. Now, this is an interesting one. I bang on about accountability buddies and accountability partners all the time. And there have been multiple different studies that have shown it doesn't always work. Ooh, shock horror. Am I going to take back everything I've said before? No, of course not. But it does edify the point that the type of accountability buddy is very, very important. What this means is, if you have someone who is of a friend-like nature, or somebody who is accommodating by nature, or has coach-like characteristics, as I've been speaking about before, then you're more likely going to achieve your goal. But if you have accountability that's set up in a form of control, that doesn't work. Understand the difference between acceptance and control. It's not about controlling things. It's about having a certain level of, I guess, encouragement, acceptance, support, challenge, so that you can have that growth. Because what people end up doing, and I've seen this before when I've had other accountability buddies in the past, is that they feel like they don't want to disappoint this person. So they don't even do it with an organic, natural sense of achievement. They do it because they don't want to disappoint this individual. Whereas if you're doing it with someone who you're more relaxed with, and there's a certain level of acceptance and flow about it, then you're more likely going to achieve. And so accountability is good if you've got the right type of person. I'm curious to know, do you feel you should tell people your plans? Do you agree or disagree? Leave your comments below. There was a Dominican University study that showed that 70% of participants that shared their success or progress with a friend achieved some level of success, whereas 35% of individuals who didn't have an accountability buddy who was their friend didn't have that same level of success. So it does show that accountability does work. It's important. It just comes down to the quality and nature and type of accountability buddy or friend that you have. And the last thing is that you're going to get haters. You're going to get people who are in competition with you, who are in cahoots with you, yeah? Because you're that person, you're that girl, you're that guy. And so if you tell them your stuff, there's something in they just don't like it, yeah? They feel something. It's not necessarily negative, but they want to get there first. They want to be the first person to put they want to make money first. They want to change their family tree first. They want to be known first. Let's not lie about it. That ego thing is a real thing. We've all felt it to some degree. I know I felt it. I know you felt it to some degree. But not everyone has it to the same quality or degree. Why am I saying this? If you tell everyone your stuff willy-nilly, or if you're that person on social media saying all of your plans, again, if you can handle it, that's fine. But energetically, psychologically, spiritually, whatever Oli you want to sort of think about, there are going to be people who are hating you and who are in competition with you. And that may be a good thing, and I'll tell you why. If it's related to exercise, studies have shown that's great. You need a bit of competition when it comes to exercise and team sports and all that kind of stuff there. But if it's non-exercise related, that's where it may become an issue. And that's where you may not have the strength or resilience or fortitude to go against this level of competition. Maybe that's not what you want to hear. So sometimes it's best not to say anything. So you're kind of oblivious and you have a childlike, ignorant state so you can go about your business. So you have that tunnel vision. So you don't give a flying monkeys about what anyone else is doing, which I've spoken about a lot in this YouTube channel. Focus on self. Really important stuff. So these are all different sort of backed reasons. You can read more about this in the link below via this Trello study or Trello article, should I say, and learn about why it's really important to be strategic, not at all, but strategic about who you tell when it comes to your plans, your goals, and what you're aiming to do. We want to collaborate, we want to work together, but there's an etiquette about it. There's a way about it that can help you. And I know in the last 18 months, that sort of route works for me. It's not about just saying, oh, yeah, it's fine. Oh, don't worry about it. You just don't know how these things play out. You don't know what's on people's hearts and their minds. You're probably even trying to discover how you work as a person. And so even if you believe this or not, I dare you to just try it. Try it for 3 months. Try it for a month and see how you feel. I know there's sometimes this inner urge to feel like we need to say something, but what does that achieve? That's because you're chasing that feeling of satisfaction. Oh, you've done great. Oh, you've done well. Because it's related to an identity style goal of becoming something like a lawyer, doctor, entrepreneur, millionaire, whatever it may be. But you're not there yet. So there's no need necessarily to say those different things. But again, up to you how you work. You could be the person who actually, no, people need to know my plans because it gives you the right level of pressure. So work it out for yourself, but at least you've got some examples and some further reading to do to understand why, in some instances, you shouldn't tell people your plans. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.